Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of our new Inside PitLogic video series. My name is Kevin, and tonight we're going to be talking about gear charts and all the different ways that you can use them inside the PitLogic app. In episode number 1, we talked about PitLogic setups and all the different ways to view the data. Well, the setup section of PitLogic has lots of different elements and pieces to it. We're definitely going to be seeing that a lot in this video series, but I want to make sure that we look at all the other parts of the program as well. So tonight, gear charts it is. Before we get started with that, I also want to let you know we want to use this video series to answer your questions as well. So if you have any more comments or suggestions, send them to kevin@pitlogic.com or to any of our social media handles, and we'll get those answered to you straight away and incorporate the best ones in our future episodes. So now on to gear charts. I'm going to pop our phone up on the screen, grab our magic green pointer. So last week we looked at setups. Below that is the gears button. I'm going to press gears to go to the gear chart section. And when you first open it, the first time you've used the app, you're going to see a blank list of gear charts. I choose gear chart and there's nothing in there. We have about 70 different gear charts in the PitLogic system that you can use. We don't know which ones are the type of car that you run, so we let you pick the ones you want for your own device and download them as you need them or get rid of them when you're done with them. We have two different types of gear charts inside the PitLogic app. The first one I call chain-based charts. This is for any race car that has engine gears, axle gears connected by a chain or a belt system. Think 600 micros, go-karts, quarter midgets, and so on. Then we also have fixed sets. This is your quick change types of gears, whether it be in a late model or midget or sprint car, etc., etc. Both of those are in PitLogic and they get used a little bit differently, so we'll go through each of them here. But to put a gear chart into our system, we're going to drop down to the action menu, which is the 3-dot circles, and we'll click the action menu and then download new chart. We'll instantly get a list of all the different charts that are on the PitLogic server. We can narrow the list down by choosing a car type. I'm going to click midget. I'll choose 433 high and then download now. And now that gear chart is in our system. There's no limit to how many different gear charts you can download. So I'm going to add a couple more here just for demonstration purposes. Download new chart. I'll pick a 600 one. Going to grab a Yamaha R6 third gear. Download now. Go back and now you can see we have two different charts in the system. I'll select that one here. I'm going to download one more real quick. Download car types. Let's say a mini sprint R1 third gear. Boom. Now we have three different gear charts in our system. We pick the one we want just by using this drop down at the top of the gear chart here. So I have the Yamaha R6 chart up now, and you can see it's organized into three different columns. The first one is the engine gear, second one is the axle gear, and the third one is the final drive that's calculated by the ratio of the engine to axle and the gearbox information that's kind of preloaded into the system. By default, this chart will be sorted by the final drive number over here in the third column, and that's indicated by the little round dot next to final. If I click on axle, now you can see the gear chart is sorted by all the 42s, then the 43s, 44s, and so on. And now that little dot moves next to the axle gear. I can also sort it by the engine gear. I'm gonna go back to the final drive over here though. And this one will range from a 1015 final all the way up to a 17.9 with the parameters that are in this chart. If I select a gear, it'll highlight in red. So that's what a chain-based one looks like. We'll click over here. I'll choose the midget. This is a set-based gear chart. It'll show the first column will be the set number. The next column over is the pair of gears that are inside that set. And then the final column is the final drive, which these charts will always be sorted by. And you can see here from the smallest number at the top, whoops, to the biggest number at the bottom. So when you're using the gear chart, you may not actually own all the gears that are in the chart. And sometimes when you're looking at a chart, it's not easy to tell what do I have and what don't I have. So we made it so that you can indicate inside PitLogic which sets you own and which sets you don't. By default, you'll see all the gear selections here, whether it be in the midget one or in the chain-based one, are with a black text font on the screen. Well, if I hold down one long touch over there and I tell the system that I have the 49 gear in my inventory, or I long click here and I tell it that I have the 47 gear in my inventory. Now you can see that all the 47s and the 49s are black, but everything else turns gray. So I'm going to go ahead and also tell it that I have a 50 axle gear. So now I have 3 different axle gears in the system. Again, those are the ones that are in black instead of gray. Now I can go over here and tell it which engine gears I have. I'm going to tell it that I have a 15. I'll tell it that I have a 14. And now I have an easier way to see which elements of the chart I can use and which ones won't make a difference because I don't own those gears anyway. For the combinations that have both the engine gear and the axle gear selected and turned black, the final drive also will be. So it makes it easy to see which combinations you have available. We do the same thing on the set-based chart as well. With a little difference, instead of telling it engine and axle, we'll just hold down on set and tell it I have this set. Now all the other sets will turn gray, and the set that I do have will turn black. I can do that to this set, go through and just mark the different ones that I have. Now with a midget, if you're on a budget like me, some of your gear sets you may have in a regular set, and other ones you may have lightweight. So if I long click, instead of just choosing have set, I could also say have lightweight. Then in the chart, that one will turn a kind of a dark bronze color. The ones I have in regular sets will be black, and the ones I haven't marked as have will stay gray. As you start using different gear charts in the system, or if you change motors or racing types, you may need to get rid of or not want to always see all the charts you have. So if we go back to the action menu and choose manage my charts, it'll show us a list of all the different charts we have in the system. I can use my finger and long touch one of these charts and it'll let me make it inactive. And now if I go back, that one won't show in our list anymore. So it's still in the device, it's just no longer in our list. If I go back here to the action menu and hit manage charts, I can also long touch that one and say I don't need it at all anymore, delete this chart out of the system. After I confirm, say yes. Now it's actually deleted from my system, so it's no longer in the choice area, and it's no longer in my list of charts on the device. So that's all the different ways to look at the gears right there. We also have different RPM calculation functions that can go on. So I want to show you how we can do that as well. I'm going to go back to the Yamaha one. I'm going to click show RPM down here in the lower right corner. It brings up our RPM calculator. I'm going to highlight one of the gear sets up above. So down here it shows me I selected a 1545. I'm going to tell it what RPM we turned. Some crazy ridiculous 600 number. What RPM we want to turn, another crazy ridiculous 600 number. Click OK. So now I have our old gear set, what we did turn, what we want to turn, and I'll click find gear, and it will turn blue the line that'll get us the closer there. We had a 1039, it's telling us we need a 1065 to get to that RPM, and in our chart the closest one is a 1063, so that's the one that turned blue up above. You can do this both with a chain set of gears, or you can do it with the set based. So if I say hide RPM and then bring that back here, I can select one of my gear sets, show it my old RPM, show it the RPM I want, click find gear, and same thing, it'll say go from set 3A to set 5 to go from 8500 to 9200. You can also use PitLogic to calculate what RPM different sets will produce. To do this, slide down to the find gear button, long click it until it says gears locked, and then just start touching different sets, and you'll see the result down below in the new RPM box of what the RPM will change to. Long touch the gears locked button, returns to find gear, and you're back to the original mode. You can click the hide RPM button, you get the full size chart again. Now, when doing any gearing or RPM calculations, it's important to remember other factors involved as well. What motor you have in the car, what the track conditions are, how close you are already to the max RPMs for a motor, or how far below you are the torque curve, all is going to make a difference as well. But if you're somewhere in the middle of your engine's power curve, then using these calculations in PitLogic will get you pretty close. When you go to download the gear chart you want, if you happen to need one that you can't find, make sure you let us know and we'll get that loaded on the server as fast as we can. If you have any other gear chart questions or questions at all, Remember to send them to kevin@pitlogic.com and we'll answer them as fast as we can. Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode with us, and until next time, good luck with your racing.